myself. Yeah. I'm feeling myself.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Loose Ends. I'm Cece,
I'm Val.
and together we attempt on a weekly basis to talk about things that we find interesting or helpful. We both come from a background of intense self-help and therapy and
True that.
cleaning up our own shit and helping others clean up their own shit. So here we are. We are attempting to do the YouTube experience.
Yep.
So this is episode number 2, and we're trying things out and seeing how it goes, because both of us, well, I'll speak for myself. I have had to push through a few comfort zone boundaries in order to even sit here and look into a camera and talk at the same time. It's not my preferred milieu, as they say.
No, and I've always sort of been out there and will do, but it still, reaches the edge of my
She's
own
always
comfort
been out
zone.
there. Well, and that's kind of the topic we want to talk about today, because this week, I don't know if it was just the fact that we posted our first video up on YouTube, for all 7 subscribers. Whoop, whoop.
Well, no,
but-
it's a combination of being told for the last year very often that we need to social media
And do this.
market.
And get the word out.
Right.
And apparently the only way to get the word out is social media. And that is the primary platforms of Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I still call it Twitter.
Yeah.
And Instagram.
Yeah, and we needed a shtick.
Well, I don't know if we needed to stick some. Well, I suppose you do. I
Yeah.
don't know. You see, the thing is, we don't know. So here's what happened, and here's our topic for the week. Clickbait Nation. All kudos to Val for coming up with that about 57 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. We had an interesting experience this week.
We did.
Through a combination of moments, and some of the best creative moments come at a time when you might be down about something else, or you're not looking for it. You're not trying to be creative. You're not looking at that moment for inspiration, and yet it strikes. And sometimes it's best to pay attention. So we did. An idea was born around our love for words, and rather than go through the step-by-step story, which is even boring me at the moment as I think about it, is simply to say that in a matter of days, 3 I think, we had taped a few what I now know are shorts or reels.
Yeah.
This is how uninformed I am, and I've been resistant, very resistant. And anyone who has been following this podcast, anyone who's listened before, knows that I always fuck it up when I'm trying to give an address or a handle or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So we did this thing
We did.
called the 1-2 word punch. And, 15, 20 seconds of an amusing take on different words and different meanings. Well, the meaning of a different word. And God damn if it didn't, for us, at our level, take off.
Yeah.
So, do you want to share anything before I just keep going on with the story?
Well, I think, so at that point we realized that there's this euphoria that came along with that. Like we kept checking, we kept going back to check. And
Exactly.
so there was this...
Click.
So
click.
yeah, we're clicking and clicking and clicking, and it was constant for the first 2 days, and then the 3rd day we really leveled out.
And we posted again, and then then I pulled back from the initial euphoric kind of. I mean, for us to go into the 4 figures,
right,
was like, whoa, people seem to resonate, but how many? And what's it really saying? So I got into the because it's me. I got into the analytics and took a look at things, and we reshaped, and now
we know that what we need to do to make videos be seen. But it's a learning curve, but along with the learning curve, we were discussing about the dangers that this does,
Excuse me, it's yours.
because you do release some kind of chemical in your brain when you get the satisfaction of these clicks and, you know, people liking your content.
Exactly. So it led to a larger conversation around the ill effects of this. And we all know it peripherally.
Yeah.
I think everybody is aware that it's not good for our teenagers. It's certainly not good. I know. What do they call it? Doom scrolling?
Yeah.
At night or whenever
Yeah.
when you're bored. It's just an escape mechanism, and
but I think it's divided the world into two. You have the people who are there scrolling, and then the people who are making the content. And they're not fucking scrolling because they're so busy making their own fucking content. And let's face it, these influencers, they don't have much of a fucking life. It is constant online, making sure that you're seen, making sure that you're tagged, making sure
and
that
what
you're...
does that do?
So,
what does that do to the neurotransmitters, the
Right.
serotonin, the dopamine? It's a false thing, and we lived it this week.
Yeah.
We lived it for the first time, and I kind of feel like, in a certain way, and you tell me, Val, I kind of feel as though I've been inoculated at a very low level, like microdosing, a very low level of kind of beware.
Well, this is
Beware.
what it brought up for me, because one of the interesting things is it was only last week. I came back from Nova Scotia and I was with family and I was doing a whole family thing. But one night we were at this restaurant and I went to the washroom, and as I came back, there were 4 other people at the table, my table, and they were all on their phones. And I stood, I didn't even move for about 10 seconds, and I watched this, and I thought, that's an example right there of how I really don't want to be.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
So, whereas, and here's the difference, is the night before, we had a bigger dinner with more family, and everybody's phone was in their purse.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good idea. I remember the first time I had that experience, and I had cooked dinner. I had moved. I was newly separated, and I cooked dinner anyway for the young woman that I had moved in. It was just a seasonal thing. I was there for a couple months, and she invited 2 of her girlfriends. And I served dinner, sat down, and I'm looking across the table at somebody on the phone, and next to me on the phone, and to the other side of me. And I thought, well, first I thought how rude, but then I thought, well, how just unaware.
Right.
Because it's so much a part, and now we're going back 15, 20 years, so smartphones were brand new, and it was a thing. I think now today, and it is supported not only by research, but also anecdotally by the people who designed these things.
Yeah.
And know stuff about them. And I forget if it's Apple or Google or whatever. I forget which co-founder or somebody who designed this. And he left the company, made a lot of millions, whatever. But he won't let his kids have smartphones.
Right.
Not allowed in the house.
Yeah.
No smartphones. You have
Right.
internet
What does
access.
that say? What does that say?
What does that say?
Yeah. So there's really some value in that. Information, and I can tell you that it doesn't actually happen very often, but if I'm up at night and I just get lost in scrolling, I don't usually do it. I more get lost in games at night, but I don't think it's much different. I actually have to stop myself because I feel like almost the energy of the phone or the vibration of the phone is not what I need right now, and it makes my body feel bad.
Yeah.
So I'll put it down.
And there is scientific evidence between, I think, I didn't know we'd go right here to like cell phone stuff, but the idea of reproductive fertility in both young men and women by virtue of where they hold their phones, in their hip pocket, in their pockets.
Right.
So anyway, back to scrolling and the allure of approval, which is what I think it comes down to. Yes, Val and I are thrilled that a few thousand people thought enough of her face because I'm standing off camera.
Yeah.
I'm curious enough to tune in and watch 15, 20 seconds. That's great.
Right.
Our intent is not to get them to like it, to click. And I've noticed that the difference is not about likes
Or dislikes.
or clicks.
Yeah.
What it says to me is it's a sign on the highway. I'll listen to this kind of corny analogy, but it's a sign on the highway of life that says you're headed in the right direction. Keep up with the words and things like that. I mean, it's been my essence for 30, 40 years.
We haven't
really focused on
We
that.
have a division online as well as in life. And that is what's good for you and what's bad for you. Okay, there's the dark web. There's a lot of shitty
So
things
black
that
and white.
happen.
We're going to a binary system here.
Well, I mean, a little bit for
That's
right
okay.
now because
I'm just clarifying.
that's where we're at. And so there are going to be things online that are low vibration, and there are going to be things online that are higher vibration. People out there trying to spread the message of love and light, and be nice to each other and kindness and all that stuff that has nothing to do with religion. There are people out there who are doing that, and I believe that is what our focus is that we don't want to spread anything but information and love and light, really.
And quite frankly, and from my perspective, I'm a few years older than Val.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody. Just a bit. And at this stage of my life, what I'm interested in is divesting myself of the accumulated information, the acumen that has come with a 40-year history around emotional intelligence, how one connects with other people, how better to connect with other people through the words you use, the tone, all of it. Communication has kind of been my wheelhouse in a corporate career. On a personal level, on an individual client level, coaching and the like, and the programs I led, the trust program that we've alluded to many times, or not alluded to, you outright named it several times, was my raison d'etre for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's been 2 years since I led that. And part of that was the pandemic. Part of that is the methodology of giving up 5 days of your life, going to a remote place and being with 5 other people. Well, with a team, I mean, it's more like 10, 12 people, and really getting at the root of some of the stuff, figuring it out what it is, find it first of all, figure out what it is, learn how to face it, whatever it is, and finish with it, right?
Yeah.
So that has been our motivation, is how do we find the people who would like to save a few decades and accelerate their own personal growth? And we use that word kind of generically.
But yeah, that's accurate.
And as I was in conversation with a client yesterday, a corporate client, and he referenced a place in his life where there was some discomfort. And my response was, did your children, when they were growing up, ever have leg aches? I remember my brothers did. I don't remember my having them so much, but maybe I did. And my mother would always say, oh, you're having growing pains.
Yeah.
And growing pains, she'd give us a magnesium and calcium tablet, but growing pains are part of the process. And so anyone willing to enter this path will eventually find themselves in a place of discomfort around whatever area.
Yeah.
And one of the areas that I think it shows up in and I think it's a positive sign, is they're beginning to have less reliance on your phone, on your smartphone, because it's really making you dumber.
Well, interesting. I remember one of the things that I remember about my trust program was I wore a watch, and it was a Tinkerbell watch, and I was asked by you, everyone was asked to take off the watch and to be present in the moment. And but that was back before smartphones.
That it was Tinkerbell, but
Well,
I do remember that I probably asked every group.
Well,
to take off the
but that
watches.
was the cell phone of the time of the time. So you were always looking at the time, managing yourself by time, and now you're managing yourself by this cell phone. You know, which gives you everything, gives you the time, gives you the information online you need, gives you,
lets
anything
you know
and everything.
Who's trying to reach you and how important you are and how significant you are, because look at all these dings.
And let's face it, there is a fucking app for everything.
Yeah. So I have had to learn as a result of all of this, because I'm kind of the techie person in this.
Totally.
And that brings up a little side. We're going to take a detour right now.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Where are we leaving the track? Right now. Because I got to come back to this exact spot, and you're supposed to remember.
Well, now I'm lost. Now I'm lost because I've been on the track for a while.
I'll come back. One of the things, this really is a sidetrack, is Val and I are roommates. We are in our recording area right now, and there's a floor in between us.
Yeah.
Which is a great way to have a roommate situation work well.
Well, yeah, because the middle floor is both
common area.
Both of us, yeah.
And then she's upstairs and I'm down. Some people, when we go shopping or grocery shopping, sometimes we do the Costco thing, that kind of thing. They think we're more than partners.
Our neighbors do too.
Yeah, we're convinced.
Yeah, I think everybody thinks we're just like a lesbian couple.
We are a lesbian couple. We are not.
No.
We are both distinctly heterosexual. She's had one husband. I've had two. I win.
Yeah.
So we're not. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Back to cell phones. So cell phones, kind of disavowed by those who created it. Well-known research being that it increases dopamine hits, and dopamine has a lot to do with neurotransmitters in how we respond to situations.
Here's what I've come to.
Emotional well-being.
Here's what I've come to with it is that we do live in a society where this is like hugely prevalent. And you need to make up your mind of how you really want to live.
And that's where we got off the track. So good for you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, because
unwittingly you brought us back.
If you want to go forward in your own personal growth, you do have to put the phone down.
Yes.
You do have to stop worrying about or seeing other people's issues and problems all the time.
And getting off on them. The Diddy thing is the first thing I noticed. And that was last week, and we did an episode on that. And what I noticed was I didn't like the feeling of a magnetic pull that I'm kind of, like I'm at a point in my life where I know this shit and I know how to use this shit. And every so often you get lazy with your shit and, you let it go. And I'm lying in bed early in the morning and scrolling through little snippets
videos
of
videos.
All these people that could be involved in this salacious and kind of scandal, and I'm thinking to myself, there is a seductive power to this, a electromagnetic pull that can veer towards addiction. And you and I had a conversation this morning
this is where I was going with this is don't for a second feel that, I'm not into conspiracy theories, but here's the reality. They build algorithms to do this because they want you to be asleep. They want you to be asleep because when you're asleep, you will buy what they fucking want to sell.
Well, let's clarify asleep, because that sounds so jargony and so like Matrix. What you mean when you say is they want
consciously,
you asleep is...
consciously, you're not there. You are in the world of scrolling,
Of make-believe.
of
That's the
watching all these
distinction I would like to
models
make.
wear these clothes that you might think will look good on you, and then you always find out they don't.
Or flip it. You think you'll not only look as good as them, but somehow feel what you think they're feeling as you look at the picture. Except that if you listen to a lot of these influencers, they are not living the life of the dreams because they're so
busy.
like too much dopamine.
Yeah.
Over and over.
And in order to keep up that dopamine,
you know what it does? It's the beginning of addiction.
Yes. No.
And you've got to have another hit.
Center.
You've got to have another hit.
Center of addiction. I wouldn't say beginning. I'd say the beginning started when you were building up. But here, the reality is that nothing is ever going to be enough at that point. Because you have
more.
Yeah, and your dopamine levels are going off the fucking charts crazy.
So isn't that feeding into the whole notion, as we said in one of the shorts that we did on the words, not sputtle, what was it? Bloviate. Somebody's trying to get down. Her phone's dinging. Bloviate. A blowhard, and we did that on Trump and the whole
eating cats and dogs.
Eating cats and dog things. And she referenced, it's kind of like the Roman orgies, these P. Diddy parties. Oh, no, that was a different word. But these P. Diddy parties sound like they're kind of like Roman orgies. And if you look back through history, if you look back at civilization's curves, always power and increased resources and money and power lead to increased debauchery and pushing the boundaries because why? Because they're looking for a bigger thrill, because they need a bigger hit.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Which is like, there's no difference with like serial killers, right? They graduate, and they release the dopamine because they're graduating on these deeds, right? But it's the same thing. They get worse and worse. And so it's no different with an influencer. They need more and more and more in order to keep that dopamine flowing. And it's not supposed to be that way. You're not supposed to have 24/7 dopamine.
Right. No. It's not good for you.
It's not good for you. It's not good for your brain. It will do damage. And
so back to I'm trying to bring it full circle here. Wait a minute. Okay.
So what I meant about asleep is like that you're not consciously in your life. You're consciously in everybody else's life.
In these little 30-second blips or 10-second blips.
Right.
The average listener watches for 15 seconds or some shit. So we've learned, and so here's the deal. We're going to continue, and here's why. Our motivation is not about getting on the money train. Oh, maybe we can get, advertisements and we can monetize. That's not what, we have never been about that.
We both work.
It may happen. I don't even know how it works, and I don't care, because even then I'm not sure I'd go that route. The point is,
because then you're locked into other people's...
Well, we don't know what we're locked into. Right. Don't take me down that path. Right? True. Because I'm the one who navigates that shit. Contracts, mechanics, making things work, technically. And I'm not even going to go there. The whole point of this is we got in this to share our accumulated knowledge.
Yeah.
And its application. Because I've been watching, and I've been in it long enough. I look younger than I am. This is so weird doing videotaping. I'm not used to seeing myself as I do this, but there we are. Look at us.
You look pretty good.
No, you do. But anyway, so I've been in it long enough now to see generational change. Mom, mid-50s. Changes over time, few years. Son, late 20s comes, early 30s. 20 years later, I'm seeing his kids being raised by a father and a grandmother who are in unison around certain life concepts, choices, how they get made, what you're responsible for, what's best for the long term, accountability, that notion, what's real freedom, certain concepts that allow them to raise children for a next generation who's going to have to deal with a world that unfortunately my generation is leaving them. And I feel a certain sense of responsibility around that. So if anybody ever trips across this video, for God's sakes, however many people actually tune in, know this. Fuck me. This is unexpected. My entire life, since I was 3.5 years old, has been about helping other people see that we're not alone. And without getting too woo, there's a purpose behind these videos. There's a purpose behind the fact that we even created this podcast. We're trying to have some fun. We're trying to laugh. We're trying to continue to learn. And mostly we want to leave you guys with an experience of having been stretched a wee bit, maybe just to think about one thought that makes you look at something a little differently. And eventually come to an understanding of self that allows you to connect on a very deep and personal and real level on a daily basis with something that you get to define. You don't have to live by the parameters set for thousands of years by people who profess to know what's best for you. Now that is dangerously close to blasphemy. And I invite any listener here. I have a deep and profound respect, and I was raised with a love for Jesus. I have a deep and profound respect for Buddha and Mohammed and Confucius and Thich Nhat Hanh. And he's still alive. I just wasn't brought up in an environment where I was taught to love them. And I do believe that that's the only reason we're here. And so, we're going to continue these esoteric little videos and this podcast and
But
talk
not
about
for clickbait.
Right.
We're doing it for the hope that those people out there who want and are vibrating just a little higher, want to have fun and want to learn a little and want to come on and join us on this train.
And learn without the, having to go through hoops to prove that you have acquired a piece of information that has proved helpful to you. In most cases, you've got to apply. You got to pay. You got to perform. And then at the end, you get some sort of proof that you learned. Some of the most fucked up people I have ever worked with, who have ever shown up in my programs, profess to be professionals helping others. I won't denigrate this certain fields, but they both start with PSY.
Yeah.
So, because they hide behind it.
Well, there's no life experience in book learning. It's just book learning.
It's just knowledge.
Yeah. It's just learning what's in the pages.
I forget who said it. It's a famous quote. You can pile 100 books on the back of a jackass, doesn't make him one whit smarter. And a lot of people brag about what they've consumed without ever demonstrating the end result of that learning. How do you apply it? How do you apply it? So I'm just now realizing that I went off on some sort of, and it's 30 minutes into this. Here's what I'd like to say to the people that are our regular audio listeners. A lot of people listen to us in the car. We've heard that. And we're so grateful to anyone who finds our meanderings worth their time.
Yeah.
Our hope is it evokes in you a desire to observe your own responses in life, reflect upon them, and then maybe course correct. And maybe tell your friends on occasion to tune in. We don't ask for you to subscribe anymore. I don't care. I just care about the number of people that want to listen in and learn and get better.
Yeah.
And do better, because the world demands better right now, and it deserves better.
And send us some messages of what you want to hear. What topics do you want us to talk
questions.
about?
We've had people one-off ask questions in text and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we respond. We're thinking, well, why not do it on air?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm finished, I think, for this. It started with the clickbait. It caused us to reflect. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's really important? What do we want to leave behind? Nothing's guaranteed, tomorrow. I went to sleep one night in 2005 and I didn't wake up for 4 days. I've been through that. Life can end on a friggin' dime. So between now and whenever that is, or whenever the next world shakeup is, and whatever, Val and I are going to sit down whenever we feel like it. We'll still drop on the audio podcast platforms every Monday like I always do, and I make sure it's up there and it's edited. Although now we're not going to be editing at all. All of Val's ums
and Cynthia's so's
so
will all be there for you to,
and hopefully
we will get better.
Edit.
We will get better, because truthfully, we are a lot better than we were a year ago when we started.
We've been at this a year and we really enjoyed it. Those of you who are just tuning in, if you want to go over to your favorite podcast platform, if you're seeing us on YouTube for the first time, go on over to your favorite podcast platform and you will find us. Loose Ends, Apple and Spotify and all those people. And we've got like 50 episodes in there. So we're just expanding now into the video format, because apparently that's what
people want.
And it's one of the better ways to reach it. But so if you listen in the car, go audio.
Totally.
And if you want to watch at home and be doing something else while we're talking in the background, that's great. All right. That's enough from me. Do you have a piece of feel-good news? We are ending now with feel-good news.
I was in Nova Scotia, and while I was there, I was reading this article because we had just gone outside of Digby. And Digby is where you go whale watching. Yeah, okay. That's like, we were in Lunenburg, but the whale watching, not good there. But I'm not that girl anyway who gets on the fucking ocean to watch whales. No, I'm not water girl. Anyway, so air girl. Anyway, so there we are. And so I heard this story that happened last November in Digby, where this young dolphin had beached on shore. And this lady came, just one simple lady came across, and she had phoned like different organizations like the marinas, and they were going to be like, 6 hours out. They couldn't get with the equipment and stuff. And basically there was like a 4 to 5 hour lifespan between this dolphin that had beached. And she managed to gather up 40 people in town. And they all carried this dolphin to safety.
Oh, wow.
And it was such a feel-good story for Nova Scotia, because they really do love their dolphins and whales and would do anything, not to...
So they picked it up themselves and walked it back into the water. That's awesome.
Oh my God. So
have you noticed how many of the feel-good stories that we do see out there? And I, when I do end up watching a video or scrolling or something, I'm drawn to the puppy ones and the kitty cats and the dogs doing silly things. I mean, I do. So anyway, to finish the whole thing, I just remembered vibrations, higher level. if you want to scroll
Yeah.
through some of that stuff, at least you're smiling, at least you're laughing. When it's outrage or anger or injustice, I don't think it helps you one whit.
No, and I've said this before, and this is a quote from a good friend of mine,
And
Jeanette.
don't watch the damn dogs and kitties too damn long.
Yeah, and don't watch the horror stories of them. You know?
Yeah.
You know, no. But there's a quote from my girlfriend.
That's enough admonitions for the day.
Which that if you know, there's 3 types of holes. There's a bunny hole. You can have a little fun down the bunny hole. There's a rabbit hole, and that, you know, is a little deeper, a little darker, you know, sort of Alice in Wonderland shit, right? You know, but then
That's
there's
where we went with Diddy.
sure, but then
We
there's
did Alice in Wonderland.
Then there's the rat hole. And the rat hole takes you down a road you don't want to go down. It's angry, it's messy, and it's yucky.
And it's dark.
Right, and it's dark. So
it's
just
dark down there,
you know,
in the rat
stay
hole.
away from the rat hole and stick to the bunny holes, because the bunny holes are just fun, because they're cute kittens and puppies and things that make you smile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bunny holes.
Well, that's your piece of feel-good
Yes.
news. Don't go down any rat holes, and if you see a dolphin, call for help. Get
That's
your
right.
neighbors.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next week or sooner. We'll be dropping whenever and posting whenever.
Have a
That's the way
wonderful
it
week,
is.
everybody.
And we
Take
love
care.
you. Bye.
Oh, we love you. Yay.